welcome to the Cinnabar. Today we've got a little different kind of an episode for you. See, I just finished up in the shop working on 3 pretty interesting guns. So I thought I'd invite you folks along while we take them out and test fire them before they go back to their owners, make sure that they're in proper working order. First off, we've got a first model Colt Lightning rifle in 3840. Then we've got this 94 Winchester. This is a post 64, but don't judge a book by its cover, and we'll talk a little bit about that before we shoot this one. And then we've got this really interesting Colt Thunderer in 41 long Colt. This is one of the favorites of some pretty famous gunmen from the Old West. So I'll talk a little bit about each one of these, and then we'll put a few rounds through them, make sure they're all ship shape, and see how they do. Okay, so first up is this Colt Lightning rifle. This is a first model. See the open top, there's no sliding dust cover. 3840. This one was made in, I think, 1886. Cosmetically, it doesn't have a lot of finish left on it, but the customer wanted to keep it looking original, which I think is a good call in this case. But it did have some problems. This one, while the bore's pretty decent, the chamber was in terrible shape, had a lot of dings and scratches in the chamber. Wouldn't hardly eject. In fact, sometimes the extractor would just slip off of it and wouldn't eject. And when it would pull so hard it would pull that case up against the frame, and you can see how it was deforming the case. Couple other problems, it actually had a broken hammer, so we replaced the hammer, and the mag tube was real loose, so we had to do a little work on the dovetail and where it attaches and whatnot down here. I think we got it in ship shape. We've done some cycling through it, but we haven't test fired it again since we did the work to it. So it's our turn to get it up on the stand and see if it works. We'll test fire it once, and then we'll cycle a few rounds through it. Okay, so this old Lightning, we're going to put about 5 rounds in it. We've already cycled it with live ammunition and actually dummy rounds, and it cycled just fine, so we just want to kind of see how it does shooting and ejecting empties. It's loading a lot easier. I was having trouble loading it, but we smoothed a few things up there. There's 4 and 5. Now remember, on these Lightnings you always got to open the action to load them. Okay, and then when you close the action, you don't have one in the chamber. You've got to still cycle it once. Okay, we're going to do one off of the stand, and then we'll take about 4. Oh, better get my eyeballs on. Uh-oh, I didn't adjust my stand ahead of time. It's way down low. We'll just see if it's close to on paper. Now, I didn't have the sights off of this one, so wherever it was when it came in is where it is now. Okay, there we go. Okay, fire in the hole. Okay, so let's see how she cycles now. Hey, it worked. Oh, we even hit a target and knocked our center target down. Uh-oh, I'm not shooting very good with it. I should have gone up and looked where it was. It is cycling though. Oh, there we go. I can't count to 5, huh? All right, so these Lightnings are really, really, really finicky, and they're hard to get to cycle right, and they're really hard to time. If you've ever had one apart, well, I'm sorry for you. There aren't a lot of smiths who will even work on these things. They're a really difficult one. And for those of you who follow the channel, you know that my wife is a Lightning collector, so that's how I kind of got into it. And then I've worked a lot with Eldon Penner, who's a world-renowned Lightning gunsmith, and so I really enjoy working on these old Lightnings. They are really a fun gun to shoot, and really, once you get them running right like this one is now, they are an excellent little gun. Now I'm going to have to go up there and see where this one was shooting. I might have to adjust the sights for the guy before I send it back to him. This gun actually comes out of Tennessee. A fellow I met at the Cody Gun Show over in Wyoming this summer brought me this gun, and he's coming out here to Oregon in a couple of weeks, and hopefully we can get together and he can pick this gun up. Now here's this Model 94 Winchester. And I know most collectors turn their nose up at anything post 64, but I asked you not to judge a book by its cover, and here's why on this gun. Now, how many times have you looked at an old rifle with lots of character and wondered what kind of stories it could tell? Well, with this one, we don't have to wonder. This is a one-owner gun. It's an early 70s model. It belongs to a sheep rancher down in Utah. And this thing has been with him since he was a young boy. And usually carries it around in his pickup. He told me that he's lost count of how many bears and big cats he's taken with this thing in defense of his herd, or flock in his case. So this is a gun that's probably seen more than a lot of guns that are 100 years older. And really, it's kind of a neat gun. I mean, it has the big loop and whatnot, and I always feel like Chuck Connors, except maybe about a foot shorter whenever I run one of these things. And this thing is just smooth as silk. I mean, just kind of incredible. Now this gun came to me because the poor fella, he had it in his pickup with his best sheepdog, and his pickup caught fire while he wasn't there with it. So you can imagine, he lost his pickup, his favorite Winchester, and far worse, his best sheepdog, all in one shot. You know, the guy was heartsick, and I would be too. And you know, we have stock dogs here on the Cinnabar, and for me, the worst thing would have been losing that dog in that truck. Because around here, we kind of think working dogs are about the finest creatures on God's green earth. Don't we, guys? Anyway, this thing came to me in pieces. It didn't get super hot. So, you know, like the wood, we've got new wood on it. We fitted a new stock to it. But the wood was charred beyond what a guy would want to try to save. So we've got this new wood on it. The magazine tube spring, you can see the thin little spring here, it lost its temper, but all the flat springs still had their temper, which is a good indicator that it didn't get so hot that it hurt the temper on the barrel or anything. Now we did a simple hardness test on it, and it checks out just fine. I'm very confident in the gun, but we are on the first shot going to use our extended trigger finger just in case. Anytime we've got a gun that's seen some heat, we want to make sure and be really safe. Now we replaced all the flat springs just in case. He didn't want to refinish the gun because he says it's earned its bumps and bruises, and I tend to agree with him on that one. If he wanted to in the future, you know, these post 64s, you can't do a conventional caustic or hot blue on them. This kind of mystery metal on the receiver doesn't take the bluing, so it's either a rust blue, which is prohibitively expensive for an everyday shooter like this, or it could be Cerakoted. I've seen some of these post 64s that have been Cerakoted a black or a really dark blue that actually look pretty good. So we're going to get set up here and take a shot with it, and then we'll cycle a few rounds through it and just see how she performs, and hopefully we'll get it back to him so he can get a few more cats and bears with it and protect those sheep of his. Okay, so I did have the sights off of this one, so this kind of anybody's guess where it's going to be hitting, so we'll try to get it generally on paper here, and then maybe we can sight it in a little bit for the fella with a couple more rounds. Basically, this thing had a lot of char on it and a little bit of plastic that had melted to it, probably off his seat covers or something. So we cleaned it all up with some oil and brass wool. We've got it bungeed up here to close up that lever safety. And because this one has been hot, now I'm really confident that it's okay, but we're gonna try this first shot with our extended trigger finger here, just to make sure everything's working just right. Okay, fire in the hole. Hey, look at that. It lives again. So I'm gonna run up there and see where it hit, and then we'll put a few more rounds to it just for good measure. Okay, so we got these sights adjusted up a little bit, and we're not going to try to get them just dead on and spend a bunch of ammo doing that, because everybody shoots a little bit differently. You know, my ammo might be quite a bit different than what he's using. He might line up on the sights a little differently, but we got her pretty close. So let's just see how she cycles. And this loading gate we replaced because, of course, it's one of the springs, and it's pretty stiff. This new one. But we're getting them in there. Okay, now let's see how this big loop feels. Oh, there we go. All right, let's kill that last steel target. Well, there you go. That will kill a bear. Now, last but not least is this Colt Model 1877, or in this case, we call it a Thunderer. Now, they made a 32 version, a 38 version, and a 41. We call the 32 a Rainmaker, and they're quite rare. A 38's a Lightning, and a 41's a Thunderer. Now, those are collector terms. Colt never called them that, but pretty much everybody that collects vintage firearms knows them by those names. This one doesn't have a whole lot of finish, and it had some mechanical problems that we've fixed up, so we're going to give it a shot. Okay, so this revolver belongs to a very, very important Colt collector. And I say that because I really, really like to eat, and I do enjoy the company of a beautiful woman. So this belongs to my wife, Erin. She's gracious enough to let me raid her gun safe from time to time and bring a Colt out. Now, I was saving shooting this gun for my good friend that works for the Morphy Auction Company and is writing a book on these 1877s, Russ Witham. But last week he suffered a heart attack. He was planning to be out here this week, and I was figuring on maybe doing a little shooting with some of these 1877s, but unfortunately he had heart surgery and he's on the mend now. I just talked to him on the computer just today, and he's doing a lot better, and we'll be back soon. So this one's for you, Russ. You get healthy real soon and get back out here. We got a lot of shooting to do. Okay, so this one, I had some cowboy action loads for it, some smokeless loads, but I went ahead and pulled those and put in some black powder loads. Now, these bullets have a flat base, which doesn't work very good in these heeled base bullets like in the 41 Colt. So I'm getting up here pretty close, and that's my excuse if I don't hit them now. This gun had some mechanical problems where it wouldn't lock up. It would throw by, the bolt wouldn't get into the notches. Now, the notches are in the back rather than on the side of the cylinder, so the bolt and the hand actually share the same window or opening into the cylinder. And boy, I really had to chase this one around, and finally found it. Just a little bit of wear on the hand was causing it to bind with the bolt and keeping the bolt from locking up into the cylinder. So we're locked up good and tight here. So we're going to see how she shoots with this black powder. We're going to make a little smoke. Oh, I love it. I missed the target, but I love that black powder. Oh my goodness. These fixed sights were way off. I'm going to try shooting way off to the right. I think I was shooting to the left. Oh, there I put a hole in it after the smoke cleared. These have a bad reputation, particularly with these heel-based bullets, of not being real accurate shooters, but they're fun to shoot. Okay, so let's see if we can't get at least a couple more of these. Oh, that one went away. Okay, next one. Oh, there we go. Okay, one less. Let's try it with double action. Oh, missed it there. Got a long trigger pull and kind of a hard one there, so I was a little leery about whether I could do it. A lot of these Lightnings and Thunderers will work in single action, but getting them to work in double action's another thing altogether. These are a really difficult gun to work on. Like the Lightning rifles, there's not a lot of Smiths out there that'll work on these things. Now, I mentioned earlier that some of the more famous gunmen in the Old West used one of these, and so we know that John Wesley Hardin was partial to these 87s. We know that Billy the Kid carried an 87, and also Doc Holliday. So, you know, the movies all show single action armies or earlier versions, mostly of Colts, but back in the day there were some pretty good gunmen that carried these double action revolvers. They must have been able to hit with double action a little better than I do. And by the way, we did get that Colt Lightning rifle shooting pretty darn good. It just started off way out to the right, so we got her the sights lined up and got her dialed in. I hope you'd enjoyed today's episode. We may, from time to time, when we get some interesting guns in the shop and need to test fire them, bring you out and invite you folks along as we do that. And we've got some pretty interesting Winchesters in the shop right now, and there's a large frame Colt Lightning on the way, and we got a couple of 1860 Army revolvers in the shop. 1866 late model centerfire just came in, and we're going to have to test fire that one. So keep an eye out for some of those episodes. There'll probably be some good ones coming up. Until next time, happy trails from the Cinnabar.